Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs in the Obama administration. Joel, good morning.
Good morning, Jim.
Let's state quite clearly this is not normal for a U.S. president to demand that 2 million people leave their homeland and to then threaten U.S. allies by withholding aid if they don't accept that forced removal of people, and at the same time saying the U.S. is going to take ownership of this. A basic question, because so often with this president you will hear it's just a negotiating tactic, and yet he's repeated this quite publicly, and apparently he's going to tell King Abdullah of Jordan, if you don't accept this, I'm going to pull your aid.
Yeah, Jim, it's a highly destabilizing effort right now underway that the president is engaged in. It's dangerous. It's risky to American interests. It's risky to our allies. And we have allies for a reason, because they support our goals. They are people, they are countries, they are leaders like King Abdullah, who have been standing with the United States for a number of years in the fight against ISIS. Last year, and shooting down missiles coming from Iran headed towards Israel, and Syria, a highly destabilized country where they've taken in refugees, where they're providing us with intelligence in the fight against ISIS. So it's a really dangerous risk without any appreciable upside, and that's what's so shocking about this.
And it's a risk to their stability, is it not? You look at Jordan, it already has 2 million Palestinian refugees, and the Jordanian people and the Egyptian people would certainly not be happy if their leaders accepted U.S. pressure to participate in the forcible removal of a population.
That's the gentle way of putting it. I think there would be riots in the street. Look, Jordan is a majority Palestinian country ethnically in terms of the population. King Abdullah, his family's from the Hashemite tribe. They are and have been leaders for decades. But if you were to watch the street protests now, you would see the anger, the seething anger. The concept of Palestinians being forcibly driven from Gaza into Jordan is so unthinkable. And then for the United States to do it, look, this region is always unstable. It's always burning. It's always hot. And now to have the President of the United States put gasoline on those smoldering embers could turn into a raging fire. We know what that looks like in the Middle East. We don't need to create hostility again against the United States. We have a stable ally. Undermining that completely is backwards for our interests.
Do Jordanian and Egyptian leaders have the wherewithal to say no to Trump? Because it appears that Trump, and this is a consistent piece of his foreign policy so far, which is to say, I will withdraw I will crush you economically if you don't listen to me. I mean, you could look at, say, Denmark with Greenland, or even this putative offer of statehood to Canada, which no Canadians are interested in. Can Jordan and Egypt resist this pressure?
Ultimately, there are major aid packages that we provide to these countries. Jordan is the number 3 aid recipient in the world from the United States. Egypt also a top recipient. But, if they look at us and say, you are going to destabilize my country, that is a higher cost to us than these funds. These funds, it's a lot of money in the billions of dollars, but it is nothing compared to what we spent in Iraq, in a country that was totally destabilized. We spent $1 trillion and didn't leave it more stable. So it's an investment. They can withstand the pressure to a certain point, but they are also going to have to look at the new geopolitical landscape. President Trump is using aid and has withheld aid to try to enforce his policies, and they're going to have to look at the United States and make a decision. Do they want to continue to stick with us, or will they look for other benefactors like China in particular?
Is it possible that Saudi Arabia could be a stopgap here? In other words, I mean, Trump apparently, as he says, he wants this normalization deal with Israel, between Saudi Arabia and Israel. He wants to expand the Abraham Accords or not sink the Abraham Accords, right? Because you have a scenario where participants in that agreement say, we're out if you're forcing the Palestinian people away. Could he get a phone call from MBS saying, this is not going to work, old friend?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because the context, as in earlier segments, the ceasefire underway, the dialogue about Israel and Saudi Arabia, will they become partners? Will there be an agreement between them? All of that will get rocked by this kind of plan. And if the Saudis do call, and I'm sure they're speaking all the time, their message will be clear. We need a solution on the Palestinian issue that is related to keeping them there and trying to find a way where they have governance in Gaza, in the West Bank. Prime Minister Netanyahu the other day said something very stark. He said that maybe in Saudi Arabia we could have the Palestinian state, which drew quick rebuke from the Saudis. This is the kind of destabilizing talk that we don't need right now in the Middle East. It doesn't serve our interests.
It's public talk of moving an entire people. Quite public talk. Joel Rubin, appreciate it. I'm sure it's not the last time we talk about this.
Appreciate it.
Coming up on Sciutto.